Welcome to Growth Girl series, where we bring together esteemed professionals to delve into various aspects of growth. Today, we will be talking about how data can help build a better world. And we have just the right person with us to help us unpack this question. Catherine Griffin is the founder of ImpactableX, a platform that allows founders of social and environmental impact startups quantify and even forecast their impact. Hi, Catherine.
Hi, Effie. It's great to be here with you.
So to start with, tell us some things about yourself. What led you to create ImpactableX?
Yeah, so ImpactableX emerged out of years of testing and development at an accelerator and fund that was part of major global innovation initiatives that I led alongside a team that worked with hundreds of early stage social entrepreneurs. The focus of the work we did with them was really around traditional business development. How do you sell products and services into public infrastructure like municipalities and prison systems and utilities that often make tough business partners? But we led these global innovation initiatives first with Bloomberg Philanthropies, focused on public safety innovation in the US, and then with the Obama administration, specifically their climate data initiative, focused on climate adaptation innovation around the world. And that project in particular was really cross-sector. We worked with a broad consortium of municipalities and multinationals and NGOs and investors and corporates of all kinds. And what happened over the course of these innovation initiatives was these partners started asking, like, what kind of impact are we actually driving for public safety and climate adaptation? Like, what are the outcomes of this work? And so we sat down with the founders in our cohorts and we asked them very simple questions about their impact. And this is what really got them out of their bed every day. Like, this is why they founded these companies, and they couldn't answer them. They didn't even know where to start. And so we looked around for other resources that could plug in here. And many of them were designed for much later stage, often public companies. They asked questions like, what's the pay gap between lowest paid employee and CEO? Which is maybe a great question to ask a corporate, but these guys had teams of like 5. It was really their products and services when, delivered at scale, that could really move the needle on some really tough global challenges. And so we just developed our own approach and practiced it internally and had no intention of offering it more widely. But the companies that used it really accelerated their growth, and the investors in our network wanted our analytics from every company in their portfolio. And so one of them came to me and said, you really should think about, quote unquote, commercializing this, beginning to offer this more widely to the global community outside of our, specific initiatives. And so I spent some time talking to the smartest people I could in the field to really get a sense of whether this would add value, and really heard that impact measurement is critical and it's really hard. And solutions are really needed. And so that really led me to developing Impactable. That's the story behind it. This isn't something that, I dreamt up one day. It really developed out of a clear need and a challenge on the ground. And so since then, I've realized that it's a much, much bigger problem that is experienced, up and down the capital stack in both public and private markets for a number of players in the ecosystem. And so, the approach has really been refined and has evolved quite a bit over time. But that's how I got here.
Wow, that's an
And
incredible story. It's very inspiring also you did talk about how hard it is to measure impact. So tell us, how does ImpactableX do it? How does the framework work? Because impact is something that sounds, to me at least, something elusive. So when I think
Yeah.
of data and impact, I'm really curious to see how you do it.
Well, that's such a great question, Effie. Let me start by sharing how we think about impact when it comes to for-profit and return-seeking organizations, whether it's companies, portfolio companies, or whether it's portfolio manager. Um, so when you think of social and environmental problems, I mean, these are massive global challenges, and solving massive challenges creates massive value. Entrepreneurs uniquely figure out how to create and capture value by solving these challenges. But revenue only reflects the portion of that value that can be monetized. And so we think about social impact as unmonetized external value, value often experienced by third parties or the commons. In the case of carbon emissions reductions, right? That is value. There is a price for carbon, but that's experienced by the commons, right? And so we capture the full value of an innovation. We capture that, we help companies capture the full value that they create for the world beyond what is just monetized. And so the first step is pretty straightforward, though in practice, it's often less clear. And this is where we really just define the metrics and outcomes that an innovation drives. And so, whether you're working in justice tech or clean tech or ed tech or fintech, whatever it might be, we figure out what the company can measure, what is the metric, that the data that a company can collect, and then what are the outcomes of the work. What happens as a consequence of them doing this? We start by defining metrics and outcomes. We also start by understanding a company's business model. Are they B2B? Are they B2C? What we want to do here is figure out what their core unit of growth is, what a common denominator is between revenue and impact. And just to respond to your sort of your elusive comment about the nature of impact, this is fundamentally about increasing access to opportunities or improving outcomes for marginalized populations, right? So you don't get credit for making the rich richer. It's really about serving populations that are marginalized in some way. And it's about resource efficiency in the case of environmental impact. And so we figure out what those metrics and outcomes are and what a unit of growth is that drives both impact and revenue. So, this could be a hospital or a prison or a farm or a utility, whatever it might be. It could be a zip code. It could be an individual user. But we figure out what that unit of growth is. And so this enables us to configure a model. And then we move into populating it. And this is where we gather data and we gather third-party research. Impact is all about change. And so referencing absolute numbers, we emitted 10 tons of carbon, or even we reduced 10 tons of carbon. It's about contextualizing it. And so we draw from third-party research that says, this is the total emissions in this geography or from this industry. And this is the change a company can drive on the overall problem. And that's really important because we have to help folks understand, right? That's the whole point. Like, what kind of change are you driving on a problem? And so we draw from company data and we draw from third-party research. to contextualize that data, quantify outcomes, and translate impact into the value that it is. What's important to note here is that companies often lack impact data. They don't know what to measure. They don't know how to measure it. If they do have it, it's siloed, or they don't know what to do with it, how to make sense of it. It might be messy. It might be anecdotal. And so what's really interesting about what we do is that we enable companies to start with estimates if they need to, just like they do with financial projections. It brings immense clarity, and estimates are accepted in the financial community as long as you're prepared to substantiate them. So, if you liken it to financial projections, like no investor is going to hold a founder to their 5-year revenue projections, but no investor would take a meeting with a founder who didn't have them. Like, it's just critical. And of course, the point is to get smarter over time and validate your estimates with, primary data. But this enables founders to start somewhere and reach initial insights. What we do at Impactable then is provide a rating. So a company's model could be entirely estimate driven, but it receives the lowest rating. And the companies that their model is populated with primary data from top to bottom, they get the highest rating. This enables readers to understand the legitimacy of their claims, but also get value from having even the lowest rating analysis. So this is really the process that we guide companies through, and we try to make it as lightweight and easy as possible. We do all the calculations on their behalf. We run all the analytics. We just need a few simple data points or assumptions from them.
And you mentioned investors. So I'm pretty sure for startups you work with, that's very important for them to have this number. So in your experience, how important is it for investors to have these numbers, and how does it help startups raise?
100%. So this is a question that's evolving pretty rapidly. Investors themselves struggle with this. Some really do it quite well. Others don't even know where to begin. But one thing is for sure, the companies that can do this will differentiate. Impact investors will ask, how you measure impact, what are your metrics? They may not have clear expectations for how a founder should respond. They may, but they may not. And so the founders who can preempt these questions and provide, a rigorous basis for their impact claims will absolutely be the ones that differentiate. Obviously, there are so many different variables that go into fundraising and whether, a company ultimately raises. But this is absolutely one way that they can differentiate. And our clients are outperforming, and they may be self-selecting to some degree. The folks that use us tend to be the ones with a high degree of integrity and commitment to transparency and really believe in their mission. They're driven by their mission, and so they themselves want to know these numbers. But we find that companies that do this work have lower costs of capital, are able to choose the investors they work with, are able to work with values aligned, maybe more patient capital. It really puts them in a powerful position when it comes to fundraising, provided, the rest of their business fundamentals are sound.
Great. So Can you share like a specific example of a startup or any other organization that you've helped quantify their data? How does that look like? So you you've described what it may mean, but like in a specific case.
Sure. I can provide so many different examples. I mean, one company works in the justice tech space, helping folks who are either incarcerated or returning from prison navigate the criminal justice system. And what this company did was recognize that technical violations, meaning, failure to appear at an arraignment or some meeting, was a major driver of recidivism, returning to prison within 3 years, which is an enormous challenge in the United States in particular. Recidivism rates vary from, 60 to 75%. I mean, it's really a challenge. And so what this company did was develop an app that enables folks who are navigating the system to simply appear for arraignments and other appointments at a higher rate, help them figure out how to get there, help them to reschedule if they need to, remind them of, really just simple support. And found that by doing that, they're able to reduce these technical violations. So that's the nature of the technology. They sell into public defender sites and probation and parole sites. So for this particular model, those are their units of growth. And so what that means is we look at, per public probation or parole site, how many people are in the system, what is the baseline technical violation rate or failure to appear rate, and then based off of the app, what is the technical violation rate or failure to appear rate. And we found that they were able to reduce technical violations by 58% per probation parole site. Then, so that's the metric, that's the thing that the company does. But then we look at the outcomes, because what really matters here is how reducing technical violations ultimately impacts the recidivism rate. And so we looked at the consequences of failing to appear at a particular appointment, resulting in bench warrants, resulting in rearrests, and ultimately resulting in reincarceration. And so by reducing the number of folks who have technical violations, you're then reducing the number of people who have bench warrants, likelihood of rearrests, and ultimately recidivism reduction. That's just one example. But there are countless others. I could give examples in virtually every impact vertical: closing the wealth gap, climate, ag tech for sure, women and girls education, across the board. But the structure remains the same for every company. It's just about figuring out the nature of their work and the business model behind it.
Yeah. The example you gave us is very, very impressive. And it really helps us understand how, I started this conversation with you saying you will help us understand how data can build a better world. By listening to the examples, one can really grasp the idea of, yes, we see change, but we can also measure it. It's very impressive to me and very inspiring. And I know that Impactable recently joined Techstars, which is, a dream come true for many startuppers out there. We know this. So how is the experience so far for you?
Oh, Effie, it's been extraordinary. Like, I really don't know another word to use for it. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity, one that I do not take for granted. I've been on the other side of the table running an accelerator fund. I've watched so many companies come through our program and go on to work with Techstars or Y Combinator or close funding from Andreessen and other, really sophisticated VCs. And to now have the experience myself, I mean, it's unbelievable, and it's truly valuable. I see why Techstars really has the results it does. They invest so much in us and support us in every possible way. We had an opportunity recently to go through what's called Mentor Madness, where essentially it's like speed dating. I mean, they had 65 mentors, I think, from Uber and Meta and Square and Roblox. They had tech wizards and marketing ninjas and investors. And so we speed dated with them and ultimately got paired with a handful of them. That was tremendous and just a fire hose of inspiration and resources. It can definitely be overwhelming. I mean, I've had to really just get comfortable with being like totally overwhelmed, and figure and practice like diligently maintaining my focus on top priorities and like key metrics that matter, while also sort of parking opportunity in a plan that I can return to after I build out my team, after I raise capital, when it's really more appropriate. But the relationships are huge, as anyone knows, in business and in fundraising, and they've really helped us not only, just really you build our network in a major way, but also um, enhance the quality of our relationships with the folks in those networks. Techstars has a mantra. It's hashtag give first.
Yeah.
And they really practice that. I mean, it is not just a tagline. It's embedded in really every interaction. And they encourage us as members of the cohort to receive first. But I cannot wait and look for every opportunity to give back to that community, because man, it's unbelievable and really a family. I've had a chance to reach out to perfect strangers in the network, and just by nature of being part of the Techstars family, they'll make time for me and generously share their experience and their resources and network. So it's been unbelievable. So I'm immensely grateful for the opportunity, and encourage anyone else who's really considering how to, fast track their work, to consider Techstars,
That's great.
for sure.
Yeah. So before we close this interview together, if anyone is listening that is a startup founder of a social or environmental impact startup, how can they sign up for Impactable? What can they do at the stage that you are now?
Yeah, so go to our website, ImpactableX.com, and I'm happy to share that we have a really unique opportunity right now for founders and funders to sign up to be the first to get access to our software, which is about to come out. So we're going to be offering exclusive discounts and perks, and resources, and give them, of course, the first access to the platform. And we really value the customers we've worked with over the last 2 years, and want to make sure that we get to work with them for the long term. And for the others that join us now, we have the same spirit. So please join us. If you want to sign up for access to the app, go to app.impactablex.com and reach out to me anytime on LinkedIn.
So I will also add the links in the description of the video in everywhere that we post this video. Do not miss this opportunity. Any funders out there, thank you so much, Catherine. It was great. I have one word for what you said. It's inspiring, at least. So you did a great job describing something that is very complicated. It's very clear at the same time now.
Good.
Thank you so
Good.
much for that.
It's my pleasure, Effie. Thank you so much for having me. It was a total pleasure.
Thank you.